His client roster now pulls in around 700 million views every month, with over 10 billion views in total since he started.
I saw a video the other day that had 160,000 views. It's like, if you've got 79 million subscribers and you're doing 160k, for me, that points to the fact that you're doing something really quite wrong. When I left school, my dad used to say to me, like, I think he was concerned I was going to end up being a bum or something.
I think because when you pander, you tend to not get what you want, and you've got to make it clear to them, no, I know what I'm doing.
As you've touched on there, we generate over 700 million views per month collectively across the whole client roster. And prior to that, I spent a decade or so at Sky Sports and helped build their YouTube channels from 0 subscribers up to about 10 million by the time I'd left.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of The Attention Shift, where we are joined by one of the most accomplished YouTube strategists around the world. His client roster now pulls in around 700 million views every month, with over 10 billion views in total since he started. Seb Losardo, welcome to the pod. Great to have you.
Hello, Ed. Thank you very much. That was very kind as an intro. Yeah, great to be here. Just to introduce myself, my name is Seb Losardo. I'm a YouTube strategist, and I'm the founder of Grow Media Club, where we work with elite creators, brands, and athletes on the platform to help maximize their views. As you've touched on there, we generate over 700 million views per month collectively across the whole client roster, and that includes the likes of WillNE, John Nellis, Red Bull Bike, and more. And prior to that, I spent a decade or so at Sky Sports and helped build their YouTube channels from 0 subscribers up to about 10 million by the time I'd left. And today, I spend my time really trying to make YouTube easier for people I work with or interact with.
Hi everyone. Just before we get into the pod, I want to talk about some research we've just done. We surveyed 1,500 games across the UK, US and Europe and found that your fans want to spend more with you. You're just not giving them enough reasons to. To find out exactly how much revenue your organisation is leaving on the table and what to do about it, head to display.com/insights or scan the QR code on screen. Download the report and the guide. Both are free. Yeah, it's interesting because like when you see those vast numbers, I think almost it can be mind-blowing for people and almost they find it sort of hard to find a starting point, I guess, with how they do that. So look, you've done both sides of this. You spent a decade at Sky, you've said, and then you've walked into a different life with a lot of the knowledge that you gained. Taking you back to that early journey, because of how it's built and everything you do it now, how did that transition go for you? Like, how did you start out in that sort of Sky world and then go on from there?
Sure. So prior to actually getting into the YouTube department, which didn't really exist for a period of time, I was in the football department at Sky. And so after a while, YouTube became a thing. It was in 2015 where they decided they were going to try to get into that area and work out how to do that. And they wanted a small group of people from Sky to do that. And so there were 4 of us who went across to do that from Sky. And then we worked with an external company called Whistle Sports. And they were helping
did they get acquired by DAZN?
Yes, I believe they did, yeah.
Cool.
And so, yeah, they came in and helped support us in that first year and helped us make a number of shows with the likes of Adam Smith and Laura Woods. And really, we were finding our feet in that first year. And truthfully, I always say to the people I talk with, like, we made a lot of really bad videos. Like, I think a lot of us now have come a long way in our careers. But at that time, I look back at those videos and think we were actually just doing it all wrong. And that's the nature of working on YouTube. I think when you start out, you have to make a load of mistakes and just keep going and keep enjoying it, and like I am to this day, like I love doing what I do. I make videos for a living, which is such a blessing that I just have to take it and just keep learning. And you know, when I'm working with like big clients now, I see what they're doing, I can take little bits from each of them, and it's just this incremental process of compounding knowledge and bettering what you do.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, right, as well, because I think people do sometimes get bogged down about the things that they've created that have maybe not worked out right, or not got the reach they wanted, or not got the hook that they want, however you want to describe. And I guess by doing all of that, that's how you learn then to find the things that did work and that you shouldn't be doing, I guess.
Definitely. There's no real way through that. Like, despite the fact we did have an external agency, I would say, like, I learned the majority of what I know about YouTube from just doing. And that would be like filming everything, editing everything, making the thumbnails, like every single part of the process, producing the videos, directing the shoots. Yeah. I was hands-on with all of that from the very start, and I'm not so much now. I don't produce and edit shoots anymore, but like at a certain point I had to do that, and that's the learning process. And if you're doing it with other like-minded people, a guy, Alex Emery particularly, who I've worked with and still work with today, who's the head of content for John Nellis. He was like an 18-year-old kid really when we first started out doing that stuff, and a mega YouTube nerd at the time, and knew loads about the platform, much more than I did. But collectively, like working together with someone that's enthusiastic about YouTube, is that when you're working on projects together and talking a lot, naturally you improve together, and faster, because you just have this willingness and ability to share your knowledge with one another.
Definitely. Look, when you've got a passion and a genuine interest in something as well, it never feels like work. That's the reality, and I think it's clear that how you do it, how Alex is doing it with John, like, you know, the reality is, yes, it's work and that's how you earn from it, but it's also like you do it because you genuinely enjoy doing it. You've got a passion for it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I actually always had that mindset. When I left school, my dad used to say to me, like, "What?" I think he was concerned I was going to end up being a bum or something. And I said to him, I'm not going to be useless. Like, I will do something. I'll end up working something out. I just want to do something I love. And at that point in time, really, football was my primary love. And so that's what got me into Sky, like my desire to do something that I love doing. Because I'm conscious of the fact you spend an extraordinary amount of your time in your life working. Yeah. And so it felt logical to me, if I was going to be doing like a 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, whatever it happened to be, that's an 8-hour block. Like, I better be doing something I enjoy for like 40, 50 years, or however much it compounds to be. So that was my logic. And from football, I then fell in love with YouTube, really, and pivoted across more there primarily.
I think that's the thing that, I mean, I know, look, good parents and also good careers advice always say, like, try and pick something you love. I'm having the same conversation with my daughter at the moment. She's just going through her GCSEs and she doesn't know what she wants to do next, and we're trying not to put any pressure on her with that as well, but also like trying to get her to home in on what is it she's genuinely interested in and loves doing. So look, I think it's good advice, that. So from obviously your time at Sky, and obviously you were there for a long period of time, and you were able to, like say, hone your skills and make mistakes and learn from it. How do you then start to think about that transition into the independent creator world? Like, were people coming to you saying, could you help us? Or had you already sort of mapped it out in your mind how you were going to go about it?
Sure. So I made the decision I was going to leave Sky. And at that point, I thought, okay, what do I actually love? And because I was at that point at Sky, in my final 2 years, I was working across every single social media platform for every sport. Yeah. And I actually always loved YouTube the most, and so I was like, actually, I'm not that interested in TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and so I decided to deep dive into that one thing and specialize on YouTube alone. And actually, like, that ended up being one of the best decisions I made along the way, because it's made me a YouTube specialist, which I've become a little bit more known for now. Yeah. And actually, if I'd been more broad and spread myself thinner, I don't think I would have necessarily landed that brand, if you like, that I have been trying to foster. Yeah. And so that was just a good decision to go down that route and to start focusing on that area. And then from there, really, it was a case of reaching out to people who I knew. And so people like James Alcott, so I'd worked together with him across projects, and he's a good friend of mine, to be honest. Yeah. We'd been to Qatar together for the World Cup, and at that time I was charging pretty small rates to start the business up. I just wanted to get people through the door, to build a client roster, and to build some relationships with people, hopefully provide them with a load of value to the point where they'd be like, wow, he's really good, and he's really just like going above and beyond. And I actually found
I can't do without him now.
Well, kind of, yeah. Like, I don't want people to feel like they're dependent on me, but like, I build my relationships with my clients now on this like idea of trust and connection and value. Those are the three things I think about, and I think that all of my clients hopefully see that with me. And so, working with James, I eventually got to work with Quadrant, and through that, because actually WillNE wanted to work with Alex Emery on that, and Alex needed help, so he called me. So I was working with John. Sorry, I forgot as well. John Nellis actually came in at that very early stage as well. And he was on like 600,000 subscribers at that point, so it was early stages for him as well in his journey. But so I had James, John, and then Quadrant, and then Will wants to work with us off the back of seeing us do the stuff with Quadrant as well. So after about 6 months, I had a client roster of about 4 people.
And you're earning a good living at that point, right? So then you start. Then you can, I guess. All right, fair enough. Not okay. Good.
It was like it was coming to the point where it was close to my Sky salary,
right? Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I'm okay now. Like I was the anxiety was reduced compared to of like my wife at one point was like, oh, let's just jack it in and get ahead of social role at like Chelsea, I think were advertising at the time, and I was like, no, I actually really want to stick at this. And so I didn't ever look at things like that seriously, and I just thought, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. And now it's at a point where it's in a whole different stratosphere, truthfully.
Yeah. Well, look, and not to embarrass, but you have been described in industry write-ups as the strategist who took YouTube from creator economy to media industry, and I think that's because you've obviously straddled those two industries, which are becoming more and more interlinked every day. We were talking off camera, weren't we, about that? It's not like, traditional media bad, creator economy good. It's kind of like you need all of these different pillars to be able to reach audiences because they're fragmented across them. What do you think that Sky give you that then you've carried with you into this, not new world, but different world that you're working in now?
So a lot, definitely a lot. I think the YouTube knowledge perhaps we built ourselves, but the corporate experience and the professionalism that comes with that, the exposure to working with world-class athletes. At my time at Sky, I was able to work with people like Odell Beckham Jr., Ronaldo, any Premier League player you can name, Jurgen Klopp, like huge names, and you have to conduct yourself in a certain manner when you're in these rooms, and you have to behave appropriately when you're speaking with the clubs or whoever the agents are. And I've noticed, even since I worked with a major broadcaster recently, and they were concerned about like whether I was going to be on time because they'd had a load of other YouTube strategists drop out, and I was really clear to the guys, like, that's not me.
That's
like,
not me.
I'm a professional, and you won't see that. I was
going to say to you, and interestingly as well, I think, and I've seen this a lot as well, I think when you get in rooms with these people as well, you somehow need to, obviously you've got to be respectful, time, all those things, but you somehow need to project as well that you're an expert in your field too. This is not, I'm trying to think of the best way of saying this, like that you're not necessarily subversive because of who they are. They are an amazing NFL player, an amazing footballer, and you're an amazing this, and you've got a job to do too. Because I think when you pander, you tend to not get what you want, and you've got to make it clear to them, no, I know what I'm doing. And we'll come on to KP later. And
no, I couldn't agree more. Look, I actually have always held that stance. I've always felt as though I wanted to tell my opinion truthfully on whatever the topic happens to be. I can even think of like the first years I worked on Champions League, I'd be in a room with senior producers and like presenters like Jeff Shreves and people like that, and I'd get asked my opinion, and I would just say, I will say exactly what I think. I'm not going to like be unprofessional or anything like that, but I won't sugarcoat it either. I'll definitely say exactly what I think, because I always look at that as like you're trying to improve the outcome, and like I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I just want to be direct and clear about what it is that we're trying to achieve. And I think a lot of organisations really pander to talent, and it means that you don't get the best outcome at times. And I don't fundamentally believe in that.
No, I've seen it so much in sort of my time in. I used to work in football as well and worked across various different organisations. Like, if you've already lost the point. You start pandering, like you've already lost the room. And if you're not honest enough, like you can be honest and respectful at the same time. Like I said, you're only trying to make it better. You're not trying to embarrass anyone or tell them to do their job. But there's a reason that you're there, and ultimately you've got to be able to give your opinion unfettered, as it were. So, look, we've covered Sky.
If you're a creator who wants to build a career like the Sidemen or Emma Chamberlain, here's one to watch. You've built the audience, you've got the revenue. How do you take to the next level? Right now, everything you built depends on you showing up. To break out, you've got to look beyond the next upload. The creators building real businesses aren't just making better content. They're building assets that work without them. We've mapped out 4 phases which will turn you from a creator to a media empire. Read the guide, start building beyond the upload.
Your first year at Grow, because by year 2 you're doing 700 million videos, and obviously we've covered that off quite a bit. So you've figured that out quite fast, really, right? How to then obviously go from being employed to run your own business, and I'm sure it was painful during that time. So then you start transitioning to year 2, and your wife's much happier now because you're starting to earn what you need to earn. How do you then start to think to yourself, you know what, this is working now. This is a proper business. I can start to. I mean, grow's the right analogy, right? I can start to grow this in line with what I want to get out of this.
Yeah, I think quite quickly it became clear that it was a serious business. Actually, I didn't have there were definitely moments of uncertainty in that first year, without doubt. But I knew quite quickly that I was onto something. Even the way I productize my service, which allows people just to request things from me rather than like working hours in a day. It allows me to manage my time in such an efficient way when I'm working out of sync with, like, I don't go on direct calls, for example, and waste an hour of my time. I do things internally, and then I share it back to the clients with Loom videos, and I feel like that really speeds up my processes. So I think the key difference in year 2 actually was taking all those things on board and taking a step and putting myself out there more was probably the single biggest step to accelerate the growth of the business. I started doing LinkedIn in August last year, and after the first month I doubled the size of the business in terms of revenue, and so I was like, okay, this is 100% working, and so I just have kept on doing that and actually just really thoroughly enjoyed that. Again, I think that's all part of the process of like, everything I'm doing, I'm just doing things I like doing. And even when it comes to client work, there are things that come towards me now. Luckily enough, I get inbound every single day, and I turn things down all the time. And sometimes they're massive brands as well, because I think to myself, I don't want to do corporate nonsense, so I'm not going to play that game. I'll just do whatever I want, like within the realms of, like, I'm not like endless in terms of opportunities I have, but like I do have a good opportunity, good choice, I suppose. And I can be selective with who I work with, and ultimately, like, I always think to myself, oh, who do I want to work with? I want to work with people I call them million view creators, people who can get a million views or have the ability to have, they're either there already and want more, or they like an athlete, they maybe have never done it before, but they could get there. People who are hungry and who are really determined to go and get the thing, make the effort to achieve those goals, and that's been compounding. All of that stuff is the same. I promote myself via LinkedIn by sharing knowledge as well. I understand that like providing value to people for free is a way in which to grow my own platform, and I think like I can talk about successes I have with my clients because I work with amazing people, and it's sort of self-fulfilling. There's a circle going on there where I keep promoting myself, keep having success, and that allows the business to keep growing, and because of that demand that's now increased, I can then adjust my prices accordingly.
I think some people do get, I guess, are they reticent to share that knowledge, thinking that people are going to steal that knowledge and go off and do it. And the reality is, like, and I know this myself, like, yes, you can give that knowledge, but you're you and you do it in a certain kind of way. Just because you give some knowledge doesn't mean that they suddenly become you with your, and we'll come on to your toolkit next, your toolkit about how you go about doing things. Like, in a lot of ways, whilst it's not a physical product, you've started, for you in terms of how you work, start to productize your process, right? Because the reality is you kind of have to have some kind of process. And I know from the prep we've done with this, you're very organized, process driven, right? But I think that's allowing you to do that. So I want to come on to the toolkit, because I think, it's fascinating how you go about things. So you talk about a 40-30-30 around the weighting of work. What does that consist of?
Yeah, so it's a bit like, it's my YouTube formula, really. I think about like how to allocate time. I think the typical person makes a YouTube video because they want to make it, broadly speaking, and they probably spend about 90% of their time thinking about how to make that video, maybe even 95% of their time making the entire video, and then they'll probably put like 5% into making a thumbnail. That's just the wrong way to do things, and so I allocate my time entirely differently. I think about putting 40% of my time into ideation and packaging. So what is the click? Like, how am I going to stop the scroll? How am I going to make someone actually select my video? And once I've done that, I then allocate 30% of my time into writing the intro. So I set up the video brilliantly. So the thumbnail sets up the premise. Once I'm in, the intro should confirm that I'm in the right spot, set the tone for the video, and then also make it really clear what the mission or goal is, so that the viewer understands entirely why they should watch to the end. Yeah. And then the video happens, and that's 30%. The video is not unimportant, but it's actually, in many respects, like less important than the packaging, because if you can have a great video, and if someone doesn't click in the first place, then it doesn't matter, does it? Like, I've seen
it's almost like you've got two stages that is easy to fail on, which then does the payoff in the end. And if you don't get those, like I said, the last bit, which, I mean, you want the longevity of watch, right? But like, you are not getting to the last bit if you don't nail those two.
But even like on the point of having the longevity of watch, the packaging sets the expectation, and so if you're like retrofitting that, you're less likely to have delivered exactly on the packaging. Whereas if you design the packaging up front, let's say for example it's 100 hours to meet Messi, I know, okay, I need to set up a 100-hour video that's going to go from start to finish, and the final thing, the final boss is meeting Messi in hour 100, and that is me perfectly executing that video.
Yeah.
Whereas most people don't think that way. Even like at a top level, I've seen many creators who sort of like fudge the packaging and think, oh, a thumbnail could be a little bit like that. Whereas I think the way I try to implement it with all my clients is like, let's really make the whole thing. Like, I know the title, I know the thumbnail, especially with AI now, there's no excuses. I can make it almost perfect. Like, I think some of my thumbnails are getting to the point now where they're actually just good enough to publish. But once we do that, I do like a little scroll test on a website that I use. And so, does it stand out? Does it actually make me want to click the video? I'll share that with my clients. And the people who know the game as well, particularly well, there are certain clients, like, again, looking at Alex and John, if I share a thumbnail with him, Alex is just going to go there, it's going to bang 10 mil. Like, he just knows. Whereas with other clients, if it's, let's say, for brands who maybe have less experience and expertise within the team, I can explain, like, these are the various concepts I've come up with. This is the one that I think is the strongest. And rationale, like, explain the rationale behind my decisions. But then we go and make the video. And so the intro builds off of that packaging setup, and makes people excited to want to watch the video. Like, it should grab their attention, it should hook them, and then take them on the journey like seamlessly from the intro through to the end. I guess
it's the concept of a value exchange. Like, you've set up at the front what you expect the audience to see as value, i.e., like, you know, the messy thing, and the reality is when they click through, so when they come into the video, then that needs to reaffirm the value that they're going to get, which hooks them and then takes them on the rest of the journey of the video. So like they need to feel like they're going to get some value from doing this, and you are effectively taking the risk away from that at the start. Yeah,
I think that's entirely right. So like, especially if you've got, again, with the rise of AI, where anyone can put Mr. Beast in a thumbnail or anything else like that, I think it's especially important right now. So if, for example, for the video we did most recently for John, we asked millionaires if we could watch football in their home. Or we asked celebrities, sorry, it wasn't millionaires. We have made that video previously. We had Will Smith in the thumbnail. And so the very first shot of the video was John walking towards Will Smith. So there can be no doubt in the viewer's mind, oh, wow, this is actually going to happen. And then off the back of that, we set up the mission for the rest of the video, and along the way we're going to meet this person, and this person, ending with Mr. Beast. So actually, it didn't work out that way in that video, it was Mr. Beast immediately, but the point is, you set up the structure of the video so the viewer can see, okay, wow, we're going to meet Steph Curry, Giannis, Mr. Beast, and Will Smith in this video, amongst other celebrities. And that makes people want to watch through the entire video, because the value proposition to them at that point is extremely clear and extremely obvious that it's high value, and that's how you drive retention up ultimately, by promising the viewer something amazing and delivering on it. Obviously.
Like I said, it is fascinating. I think I was aware of you from Sky days, because we worked for Sky for a number of years. I think your name had come up even though we'd never met, and then I think when you went, I think we might have even already been connected on LinkedIn, so I've been watching what you were saying, and then obviously I saw the pod and listened to that too, and then conversation happened here. I was chatting with Will, who's our producer on this as well, and I was like, look, there's just so much here that is just, it's just fascinating in general. Like, look, I'm not necessarily making content myself, but when I see, you know, because like everyone else, I watch content on YouTube, and it makes you look at how content is being presented to you and made in a completely different way. And I think that's why I think you do explain things really, really simply for the layman like me to understand, and then start to connect the dots of why these things happen.
I think that's really important, what you touched on there as well. Like, I study the best people as well, like, and everyone should. Like, if you want to get better, you naturally look at the people who are doing it better than you. And there's been the terminology of Mr. Beastification of YouTube, which has been a negative term in many ways, but actually, like, he's just made videos better. Like, the idea that he's ruined the platform, to me, is kind of laughable.
Well, it used to be cats, dogs, and food porn, right? I mean, that was YouTube for a long, long time.
Well, it's harder now, and I get, like, especially for the older generation who probably thought they were killing it back in the day, and now it's really difficult. It's like, it is definitely harder. There's no doubt about that, but it's made the whole experience is about making it better for the viewer. That's the whole point of the algorithm. I think, like, many people treat the algorithm like it's some sort of enemy, but in fact, it's really just, its job is to distribute great content. It's sitting there thinking, like, when you let's say you log on to your YouTube app, it thinks, what does Ed want to watch? And it pushes that towards you. It's predicting what you're likely to watch based on your own user experiences, based on similar people to you and how they've reacted to that video. And so it's really, I think it's like an amazing thing, that you can make something incredible, and even off like a first upload, it can just do serious numbers if you correctly deliver.
It is. I mean, it is the democratization, not just of content creation, but of content distribution. That someone with a niche interest can go global in a way that was just never possible before, because you were relying on the traditional sort of media structures of, you know, newspapers and TV and things like that. And again, not saying that that's not good, but this allow. I saw a video a little while ago, which was a guy who made large scale. I'm trying to think of the word to describe it now. He was making these radio controlled boats that he would put on. I think it was in the Lake District, and did it because it was a hobby. But then made I think it was the biggest aircraft carrier that anyone had ever made, and like, literally he was landing planes on it in one of the lakes in the Lake District. And he'd set up a business, and he'd hired a video editor with him as well, and he was able to do his passion, which was building these models, but also created a content business as well on the back of it too. It's kind of like, well, what? That's doing something you love in a different kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, he ultimately made something remarkable there, based on what you're saying. And
it ended up on local news. It was that remarkable.
Yeah, but that's what it's worth. When a video is like worth remarking about, it's worth sharing.
Yes.
Therefore, the algorithm, again, it can comprehend this. It's there. It's designed to understand like viewer satisfaction, and it'll be reading how long people are watching for, how many people clicked. Like, if it's the world's biggest carrier, then it might be very interesting to a select group of people. And again, that distribution is allowed to happen via that premise of like it being great and delivering on that promise. And I just think that's a great thing. Yeah,
I think alongside, obviously, lots of people who do this, they're passionate about certain things and they want to make content. This idea of how do you ideate ideas, and there are processes you can follow, right? So I'm fascinated to hear you talk about like outlier mining, right, and what that is, because most people, if you say outlier mining, they will literally not have a clue what that is. And I see you talk about that a lot.
Yes. So first of all, you need to understand what an outlier is, to understand how the whole process works. And so an outlier is a video that over-indexes or overperforms. So if you imagine a YouTube channel that typically gets 100,000 views on every single upload, roughly, and then all of a sudden it's done 1 million views on a certain video in the last 10. It's like, it's a 10x outlier because it's done 10 times typical performance on that channel. Right. And so what I do as part of my process of ideating is I do a deep level of research trying to find videos that over-index. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what has over-indexed? So that's the process of literally just finding those videos, which is slightly laborious, but there are tools that can help you find those, including a website called 1 of 10. And then once I've found the what, then I'm thinking about the why. So I'm like, okay, why has that performed in that way? What can I take from this and bring into my own area, my own niche, and apply it to my own ideas? And so if I spend if I was doing for like a whole channel of ideation as opposed to like a single video, I might sit there thinking, I'm going to find 100 outliers. And once I found that 100 outlier thing, I see that as like the foundation for my ideation process. It's the base of which I build off all of my ideas. So if I've got this really solid foundation because I'm building off of loads of videos that have over-indexed, then it's likelier when I start ideating myself that something strong is going to come out of that. Yeah. Whereas many people might just jump in the shower and think, oh, that would be quite fun to make. Well, it's actually, there's no research that's led you to that point. And so what we find is that if something has been successful before, it will be successful again, as long as it's not oversaturated. So you're trying to find a unique spin on things that have performed previously, and that's the skill, really. So I'll find a load of those outliers. From there, I'll probably scribble down like 50 ideas as I'm going through and finding them. Naturally, I'll think, oh, that could be the title here, and I'll just keep writing those things down. And then after a while, I start looking at them and looking at the videos that over-indexed and seeing how many views they did, how much they overperformed by, and then looking at my versions of those titles and try to sort of rank them based on how I think they're likely to perform on my platform, on my channel, how interested my audience might be in those ideas. And once you've gone through that process of ranking them, then you really get through to the phase of like, actually, can we make this? Because there are certain times where you come up with a video idea and you're like, oh, that's a good title, but actually there's no structure to that. It's actually, maybe it just feels like a short form video, or maybe we can't make this for whatever reason because it's completely unrealistic. Like in that outlier moment where I'm ideating, I'm very much in dream mode. So I will think of a madness. Like, and I always say this, like the idea that we came up with John was like, we thought I'll come and hug Ronaldo, which is such a stupid idea, but it's like, everyone normal would probably go, yeah, no, and just don't bother. Whereas we were like, but if you can make that happen, then it's going to bang because it's so unique. And I had seen a video from another YouTuber a long time ago called Phidias. He'd hugged Elon Musk, I think it was. And so based on that, I was like, okay, well, that really over-indexed for him. Yeah, and so if we can translate that into our niche, I can see that performing. And so on top of that, we actually hugged 100 footballers, including Ronaldo. And so there was a load of, just a whole process of building towards him, and him being like the final boss at the very top of the pyramid that we were working towards.
And I guess in the mindset of the viewer on that, the reality is like, obviously, look, everyone assumes that a hug's going to come at the end of it, but people are really diving into it because they know there's going to be a journey to get there, and there's going to be lots of things that are going to happen that journey. And you're not telling people what the journey is and the interesting things that happen. I'm sure like there'll be a multitude of things. They know they're going to get the payoff, which is the hug, which is the value exchange, but they also know that it's going to be fun to the point of getting to that.
Yeah, so the way I would think about that is, as we touched on before, first of all, no one's going to believe you're hugging Ronaldo, so you need to make it extraordinarily clear in the first shot, not afterwards. Straight away, the best shot of the video, the most important shot of the video is the first one. So it needs to be John just about to hug Ronaldo. And we're also going to hug Grealish, Pirlo, bang, 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 all this extra value that they weren't expecting. So the viewer
and
like
that's
lands
the journey, right?
Wow, you've exceeded my expectations. Based on the packaging, I thought you were just going to hug Ronaldo. Now you're going to hug Chiellini, Zlatan. And so, and also within that, you're trying to set up this idea in your head as like, and some of the players are going to absolutely hate this. And so you want the viewer to think, oh my God, there's awful tension here, because that creates suspense. And the more suspense and tension there is, the likelihood of people watching on is drastically increased. And so those are little storytelling techniques you're trying to lay into those first under 25 seconds, really, before flying straight into your first hug.
So is this, and I guess, does this come back to then this idea, this process that you've got of beats and rising progressions?
Yeah, so once I've gotten through that process of actually ideating the video and creating the packaging and having the title and the thumbnail that we're properly locked into, I would write an intro, which kind of is similar to the sort of stuff I've just touched on there. And then the structure of the video, I think in like two ways when I think about video structure on YouTube. So for people that don't understand how YouTube structure works, like video progression is very important. And so what that means is how we move forward towards the end goal. So if we're progressing towards meeting Ronaldo in that example we've just touched on, or hugging Ronaldo in this case. So I think about like, how are we progressing? We've got 100 footballers, so we're progressing through one footballer one at a time. That's the progression mechanic. And then the escalation is, effectively in this video, as I remember it, we had them ranked on their FIFA cards, so they were getting higher and higher ranks. So the viewer was understanding that
you can see the rise.
Bigger. So you think of it in those two ways of like, you just want to make the video get bigger and bigger, but at the same time you don't want you want there to be value immediately as well. So once you've done the intro, like as I remember it again, I think we met Heung-min Son off the back of the intro. So it's like straight away, wow, great player, and we're working towards Ronaldo, and there's all these players in the way. So you're front loading so much. Like, it's incredible how much.
And then everyone has a favourite, and you might see someone that you've not been told, like almost like there's these little almost like nuggets that appear. Like there might be a certain player that you really, really love that wasn't part of any of the packaging, and you're hanging around to see, are they going to see that person or that person too? The biggest events of the year are gold mines for publishers, and Display's new research shows you exactly how to cash in. We analysed over 30,000 comments across the US election, the World Cup, the Met Gala and more, uncovering 8 ways audiences engage, so you can package, price and sell your content and own the conversation, whether you have broadcast rights or not. Head to display.com insights to download Harness the Hype today.
Definitely, like that, definitely. And again, that's like about exceeding expectations. So I saw Arak talking about this the other day. Actually, someone was like, you come up with such great packaging, how do you think about that, and how do you think about delivering on that? He's like, well, I think about like the craziest thing he can think of, basically the biggest and best ideas, which he spends ages doing on. And he's like, then I don't make the video if I can't over deliver on that. So he's not thinking about meeting expectations, he's thinking about drastically exceeding expectations, and the viewer having that incredible feeling of satisfaction within the video and enjoyment to the point where they clearly watch to the end. Maybe they share with their friends and like the videos, etc. All those sorts of things. And that's ultimately where YouTube's going. People are liking this. It's really performing well. People, I think things like shares, for example, if you go and watch another Air-Act video, the platform's like, okay, it's kept them on the platform. They're still enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's reward, like they want to reward that process. And yeah, as a result, that video will get more impressions. And the more impressions you get, the more views you get.
Yeah, and then obviously you get engagement. So, as part of your process, then as well, like is clipping coming into your thought process in terms of, I guess how you're going to. I mean, look, 'cause obviously shorts are a big thing on YouTube too, right? Like, is that part of your ideation process too? Like, you're thinking about the long form, but also how are elements going to be clipped from within this to get other distribution as well?
Not necessarily, like clipping definitely is important, but it's not something I'm thinking of at that stage. I really want to keep it a lot more simple, and I just want to think about what's the biggest and best ideas. And I think that's so critical to understand. Like for anyone who's, again, like newer to YouTube, the biggest lever you can pull on YouTube is your ideation phase. And so that's why I want to invest that 40% of time in that part where it's like, if you have a bad idea, the ceiling is set lower and you can never exceed it. Whereas if I have an amazing idea, the job of the video is to get as close to that ceiling as possible. So all the clipping and extra distribution, and if you're working with celebrities or athletes or whatever, and they've got their Instagram and they can push to that, in my head, yes, it has some value, but it's secondary, because the distribution that YouTube can give you organically via the algorithm, if you just make an absolute banger, in my opinion, far outweighs that. But again, you'll see, I'm sure, like all these big creators now have these clipping networks, especially the ones who are like, let's say, iShowSpeed or someone like that, who's on a live for long periods of time, and there's so much stuff that can be clipped. There's obvious value to that, but I think for videos like the ones that we're making with John, I'm really thinking more about like what's the actual clear value that exists within the video. And then yes, they can clip out bits if they wanted to where John meets Pirlo or Zlatan, because that's inherent value, but it's not part of my strategy as I'm formalising my ideas.
No, I agree, and I think like it just feels like there's just more inherent value for everyone in the full long form version. Like they're like I said, they're like the mini films. Like the people, I think the way they get hooked into it, because they've had all the markers they need to know that they need to be part of it. Like the value there is in that. Look, there's lots of people who might find it then through the odd clip that's done here and there, but you've got to be careful. You don't want to give too much away in the clips.
Yes.
Because then you don't get the value you would expect from the long form, because that's how it's been created.
Yeah, and that's always a balance to strike. And actually, to be honest, it's the same for the intro as well. Like I'm trying to front load as much as possible into that, but at the same time, you're conscious of like holding back a payoff. Like what the person clicked for, you have to hold that back. And certainly that would be the same. Like if you give away the final moment of your video in the clips straight away, then there's a chance that people won't watch the longer form. Which if your primary desire is to make your long form perform, then it's sort of counterintuitive or counterproductive.
That makes sense. So look, I want to move to talk about the switch with Kevin Pietersen, because again, that just appeared one day on my YouTube timeline. At the time, I didn't know you were involved in it, right, and started watching it. And so, I'm interested to know sort of how that's come together, and what did the early conversation with KP look like? Because look, everyone knows, right, who knows who Kevin Pietersen is. He's a strong character, right? And that's through him being England captain, a player. He was always outspoken. As a commentator and pundit now, he is. I think lots of people going into that, we talked about this earlier, about putting yourself on a level, will be like, oh, KP, this is going to be interesting. How did all of that come around?
So, Prodigy Studios working with Kevin Pietersen. So there's three founders that work in that business, and one of them, Tom, is the former head of content for The Overlap. And so they had conversations with Kevin about creating a YouTube channel together, and the goal really of Prodigy is to bring brands and athletes and communities together. And so they've had those conversations with KP, and I'm not really involved in that process. It's sort of like in terms of like the commercial parts or anything else like that. But they've had those conversations about working together and building something together, and then at a sort of later stage when the YouTube stuff gets involved, then I'm brought in to help advise and help grow the channels. And from like when I started to engage with KP, like I just found someone who's very easy to get on with, truthfully. Like, you know, I've heard all the things you've touched on there about KP's reputation and maybe bits and pieces, but from my experience, he's just been perfectly pleasant and like actually brilliant, because like there are certain bits. I remember the first time we filmed together, I was thinking about like the intro, and I've touched on how significant the intros are. I said to KP, look, I know this is the boring bit that no one ever wants to do, but like this is really important. He went, whatever you need, I will do it. And if you need someone, if you need this, that, and the other, I'll make it happen. And I was like, oof, I love that attitude, because he wanted the best outcome. And so I've worked with many athletes in my time, and it's definitely not always the case that they care. And so having someone who was so driven to actually want to make the videos better, it just made the whole process so much easier. We're filming with KL Rao, who's obviously a massive superstar in India and globally, and he was sound as well. But like KP just made it all so easy. I would say like the lines I wanted them to say, they would say them. It was done. We smashed it out in about 15 minutes, and it was job done. It was like a seamless process working. Again, like yes, they're not a creator, so they don't have that inherent experience, but it's from a broadcast background and has a big personality, so all of that stuff is just going to come very easily for him, I think. And actually straight away I could see there's a creator there. Like he says things to camera at certain times that are quite natural, in terms of like he'll foreshadow certain moments well, or give a stronger reaction to camera, and it's like he gets it. He actually gets it.
The great thing there is, like you said, you touched on, not all athletes think like that, but he's obviously come at it from a preparation perspective, as he had the mindset as an athlete, and he knows that how he talks and what he says is impactful. So, and obviously it's great that you set off out on that path with him at the start. So what does 6 months in look like that first month working with him now? Is there to a certain degree now how this content is made that he's already setting up in his mind, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, so it becomes not necessarily easy in the sense of it's just easier to do, but it allows you to maybe do more with it because there's inherent knowledge there from him.
So I think the biggest thing, honestly, that's changed is more the stuff around him rather than him himself. Of course, he has improved, but at the start, it was very much, for those first shoots, it was me and Tom and an external producer managing those, and so it was a much smaller operation, whereas Tom's now like further back from it, has a head of production, Pat, who's fantastic, and I liaise with him every single day now. But actually, like in terms of like my input, really, nothing's really changed other than the fact I went on the first couple of shoots. So I did the KL Rao and the Yuvraj Singh one just to sort of help, and now I don't do that because that's not really part of my offering. But at that point, it was like just to make this one go smoothly and to make everyone understand how it should work. Then I'll get involved at that stage. But now there's just more infrastructure around the athletes. They have a much bigger and broader team, and so that happens directly via me and Pat now. So I still like help script the intros and structure the videos and other bits and pieces and ideate for them as well. But yeah, there's more around that. But also definitely like KP's more natural in the intros now. Like he'll say things with a bit more flavour because he understands where he can throw his personality into things a little bit more and stuff. So he's finessing that and learning. But yeah, it's more the infrastructure that's changed.
No, that's good. So look, and you can. I was going to ask you this question, and I was actually reading through my notes a little bit. Like, when was the moment that it clicked that the collaboration was going to work? But you've described that already. It was right at the start, where you can just see that he's lent into it. And we're going to come on to the changing athlete landscape, and I guess that's one of the things that if you're coming into this as an athlete, you've got to lean into it. But before we get to that, what's the bit of the switch that you are proudest of strategically? Something that no one outside would see or know.
So I think, there's a couple of things there. So just in terms of like the first upload and going back to the point where you made there about like knowing it's going to work as well, they're almost like tied into each other actually. We went through the process of making these videos. We were working with massive superstars. KP's, his contact looks crazy, so he's pulling in all these people. But then it's the first upload. Ultimately, you're only as good as the outcome in the end. And so on that first video for Rashid Khan, it did 1 million views in the first day on a fresh channel with no uploads. I was like, okay, wow, we are on to something here. Like straight away, I was texting Tom like, this is going to bang beyond belief. And for a first video, it's now at 12 mil. So to go beyond 10 million views on a first upload, like certainly I've never achieved that before and never been involved in a process like that. And it just speaks to everything behind the scenes as well, like the collective efforts of all of the team coming together, KP pulling people out, and the production experience from Tom as well, from his time at the Overlap, and he also previously worked at Sky as well. So there's just so much come together there, but we were definitely straight away thinking, we're onto something here. And actually, even before that, I think looking at the sports landscapes, I actually think loads of the sports landscape's untapped, and I certainly thought it about cricket. It's a massive, globally like a global sport, and it feels as though no one was doing that in an entertaining manner.
Yeah.
And so that once we entered into that in a way that hadn't done before with top athletes, in my head it was like, how could it not work?
Yeah.
And so that's probably the main thing, really, strategically, is understanding the audience fit there and the gap in the market. That's probably the point.
No, that's and look, and I think this brings us nicely on to actually the changing athlete landscape, and that's a great example, I think, of an athlete deciding that he's going to build a media business essentially, and it's part of a bigger shift, and we're seeing more and more footballers now sort of trying to do this and have their own voice, as it were, the likes of Haaland and Bellingham and Cristiano Ronaldo, and some do it well and some do it not so well, and do it for various reasons. And I was having a little bit of a chat with Will early, just from my own personal perspective. It's kind of like, I see what Ronaldo does and I see how huge his channel is, but I don't see who he is. I don't get any feeling. And I think the kind of content you're talking about is like people have to connect with it. And I think YouTube is a platform, is like, it is so community orientated. It is where people want to see the real version of you, and they can see right through it if it's not.
I mean, definitely. Like, I think YouTube is there for you to show your personality, be authentic, control the narrative, and have distribution, and eventually own a media empire potentially if you go about it the right way. And like, it's hard to like sniff at what Ronaldo's done when he's got 79 million subscribers, but at the same time, if you look at like the last 6 or 7 or 8 uploads, whatever it is, it's not him. It's not even football. Like, I've seen like fighting on there and other bits and pieces, and it's like, well, it's done like I saw a video the other day that had 160,000 views, and it's like, if you've got 79 million subscribers and you're doing 160k, for me that points to the fact that you're doing something really quite wrong, and maybe
there's no value exchange, right? Like, people are not getting what they expect of that channel ultimately. They're getting something completely different.
They signed up to see Cristiano Ronaldo, him behind the scenes, maybe with his kids, with his wife or whatever, doing football challenges, having long podcasts, whatever. That could be so many things.
Yes.
And it's none of them, realistically.
So who's doing it right?
I mean, Haaland's the closest. I think, like, same bracket in terms of megastar. Obviously, Haaland's less famous than Ronaldo in terms of like Ronaldo being the most famous person in the world, but Haaland's a massive, massive superstar, and he just is doing it the realest way. Like him doing the Joker thing at Halloween and stuff. Like, I think that's his best video so far. And even the first one, actually, What's the Life of a Professional? It's like his breakthrough video, if you like, and his first upload was very real. I think there is times where he's like wandered off. Again, fair play in a way, like doing whatever you want, like him playing golf. I don't think maybe the average person signed up for that. I always say to people when I work with them, like, lean into your unfair advantages, and in his case, you're a footballer and you've got access to crazy stuff, so I would be thinking about that more so than that other kind of approach. But the secondary point really, and the biggest area for growth for him, is his packaging. Well, both ideas and packaging, but his packaging is not that strong, respectfully, and so that can grow and improve a lot. But he'll get there, because as long as he is enjoying it and he can keep up the consistency, he'll get there, because he's approaching it in the right way. And I think, like anyone, you have to have those bad uploads. Unless you've got like a really strong team around you, you have to have those bad videos, if you like, to get to the point where you're consistently making great videos every single time. Because it's a real, it takes years to work out how to make every single video do whatever your views target is. Like, there's a world in which Haaland should be doing 10 mil every single upload, realistically, because of who he is. And so
it feels like he'll get there, because it feels like there is a depth to his personality. He's not afraid to show who he is, and obviously his investment into chess and things like. He's not afraid to just be into the things that he's into and talk about it and show people what he's into. And he feels quite unguarded in the way he does things, without like going off on massive tangents in a lot of ways. Like I said, there's those things around it, but like I say, he's trying to do it over a period of time. He's working it out. Whoever's helping him to do that, and because I think that's what lacks. You've worked with loads of footballers, but I think that certainly, if you compare European athletes to maybe American athletes, and the way that if you think back you remember some of the Kobe stuff with Nike, where Kobe's in a I don't know if you ever saw the one where he was in a theatre and he was almost doing a keynote speech, and you've got like Richard Branson in the front of and he's almost like he was lecturing them on something. I think we lack some of that kind of personality over this side of the pond.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think obviously footballers have been very conditioned to speak in a certain way, and actually they don't have to do that on their own platform at all. I think the important things for like Haaland is like, one, he's massively sound, obviously, like everyone can see he's the normal guy, and I think the critical thing is to be enjoying it, because I think like look at like again, there's extenuating circumstances I'm sure because he was injured, etc. But Jude Bellingham hasn't uploaded in the whole of 2025, and that points to something going wrong there. Like either logistically there was not the right setup, or he's not enjoying it, maybe because the outcome wasn't looking so great in terms of viewership. The performance was quite low in some of the most recent uploads, and so you need to be finding that balance between like what you're good at and what you really enjoy doing it. And I think like that's just part of it, especially when athletes, it's not really a surprise that everyone knows they're making loads of money. So if they're going to invest their time into YouTube and it's not doing well, then they're going to soon stop doing it because they can swear. And so it really has to make sense for them to be actually invested into it.
I do wonder with the Jude thing as well, obviously, because Gareth Bale used to get a lot of grief for when he wasn't playing, for playing so much golf, and the Real Madrid fans got after him quite a bit that he wasn't focused on the game. If Jude's seen that and gone, you know what, I just need to even though I might be doing other things outside of the game, just not show people I'm doing other things outside of the game, because Gareth got a lot of grief for it.
I think that remains a massive challenge. That dominant is going to topple, like especially with people like Haaland.
It's
and
unsustainable.
Ronaldo.
I don't see the point. Like I think there's ways you can do that and tell your story.
But I think also as younger generations come through and they expect that and understand that it's really not impacting their performance necessarily either, I think that will change. But I think it just takes time. It's like even when I started at Sky, we were making YouTube videos with Premier League players to start with, and we started with Craig Cathcart, we did a five-a-side, dream five-a-side for him, which was really safe and fairly low-profile player. And then over time, we got to the point where we could ask Jurgen Klopp the most ridiculous questions about himself on the internet, because you earn that trust, and people realise, actually, Jurgen Klopp's not going to lose the next game because I've asked him if he's got fake teeth. Like, it's not having an impact at all. No. And so, but football fans are quite easily offended sometimes, and if their team loses and there's someone to blame, then the YouTube person is going to be the person that gets the blame most likely. And I'm sure people like Ben Foster would have been copying that for years. Yeah.
No, I agree. So what's the opportunity for clubs, and agents, I guess, to lean into this earlier? What are most of them missing?
What, football clubs?
Let's talk about like the players. Like, it could be clubs, could be agents, in terms of those players that they're working with, to actually lean into this, to actually make this a benefit rather than a challenge or a problem.
Got you. Yeah, I think ultimately, to be honest, like anything on YouTube, like if you build trust and relationships, you can ultimately commercialize it. If you think every single player has an Instagram account, no questions asked, and they all know how to commercialize that, and they found ways to create a revenue stream from that. Well, YouTube's exactly the same, but it's just going to build even deeper trust because you spend more time with the athlete. So as long as they're being real and authentic and likable and all those things, there's just another opportunity to generate huge amounts of revenue and control. And if you want to speak on a topic, let's say, for example, you don't get the interview with either BBC or Sky or ITV or whoever, well, you can speak because you've got your own platform. There's no one stopping you. It's free. It's no barriers to entry. And so I look at that and think, well, there's a huge amount of upside there for people who are maybe wanting to enter it for the first time. And then for whether it's like clubs or anyone else, we've seen on social media again, which seems to be a little bit further ahead, how things have changed over time. Let's say, for example, like when Arsenal lost the Champions League the other night, Chelsea posted about, if you want to see the Champions League trophy, we've got it in our stadium, like tour or whatever. Like that kind of thing would not have happened whilst I was still at Sky like 10 or so years ago.
Yeah.
Because it would have been completely unacceptable to post something like that. Well, the landscape's changed. People enjoy that level of humour now. It's all part of the rivalry and everything else. And I just think over time the same thing's going to happen in YouTube, where people are like, okay, the players going and doing this small format where they play Guess the Footballer or whatever. They do YouTube formats. It's absolutely harmless, and I just think there'll be massive revenue opportunities that come from that. For those, especially for those who get there first. I think people like Haaland, he's going to absolutely kill it because he's the first to come and he's a massive name.
Yeah, true. I tell you, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we've got the World Cup coming up, right? It's going to be the first that YouTube. If you think about what's happened with YouTube over the last 4 years from the last World Cup, and FIFA doing what they're doing and all that, but it's going to be interesting to see what the players doing in and around the World Cup. For the first time that YouTube's at the point it's at, and we're so used to this digital distribution of content, and they've got their own voice. Just the kind of things that we're going to see and what's going to come out of it.
I think it was not just for the players, but I think the creator access will be unparalleled. I think I was at Qatar. I actually went to a third of the games at the last World Cup, which is
wow.
So I was really close to it, and the creator access was good. It was better than anything I'd seen before. But I think next World Cup, I think it will be unprecedented. I think the level of access that the top creators are going to get to the players via brands or anything else will be beyond anything we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Again, because they understand that you can amplify their message. If they're selling a boot or a ball or whatever it happens to be, and you've got a massive creator like a John Nellis or a Foot Crunch or Celine Dett who's wearing the shirt from Belgium or whoever it happens to be, naturally you're going to sell more shirts because people are going to see it and think it's cool. And so I think from that perspective that'll be increased. It'll be fascinating to see how Haaland uses his YouTube channel during that period of time, whether or not he really goes for it or whether he just completely ignores it and knuckles down on.
He might just go, all I want to do is just do the best, because they've obviously, it's 26 years since Norway were last in the World Cup, so it's a long time. And I saw a beautiful video that the I think it was the King of Norway. It was like, because obviously we've seen all the videos, right, that all the different teams have done about their squad announcements, but like the King of Norway doing this video, it's been so long, and it was about the people and fjords, and it'd be interesting to see how. He's not taking it seriously if he does do videos, but in his mindset he may well think, I just need to knuckle down.
I'm convinced he could separate the two. I'm absolutely convinced. He's just too smart. He's so good at what he does, and he looks so relaxed. And behind the scenes, the reality is when the camera's not rolling, he's probably just. I think he is just playing FIFA with his mates and doing stuff like that anyway. So it's like, what difference does it make if there's a camera rolling? Especially if you're not actually he's not planning and producing all of these shoots. He's not booking the camera ops and stuff, is he?
Exactly.
It's people are not. I don't know how people can't understand that. And I think these kind of chats are useful for people to understand, because I think people just see things and make assumptions, and you probably spend your days trying to explain these kind of things, and I do too. Actually, the difference between obviously what people see and what actually goes on behind the scenes, there's just infinite opportunity that. Again, you as a planner, if you plan these things out, then it's not onerous for people. It's when you turn up unexpected, do stuff with no goal, it doesn't work. No, exactly. And that's kind of the beauty of the Prodigy model, honestly. Working with them, the athletes, we have time slots where we work with them, but realistically, yes, they do come forward with ideas, definitely, and you want them to be engaged and buy into the channel, otherwise it will never actually take off.
Yeah.
And using KP as an example, he for sure puts ideas into the chat. But there's lots that goes on around him, because he's not booking everyone's flights to India or wherever it happens to be. Obviously, that gets outsourced to the production company who manages all of that. And that collective team effort is what makes their life easier and actually allows them to have consistency to do the bit they enjoy, which is just making videos with their friends.
Cool. Seb, this has been absolutely fascinating, and just from my perspective, just been geeking out listening to you, I'm not going to lie.
I've enjoyed coming on. I think I just love speaking about YouTube, truthfully, so it's great to be on it.
I love hearing about it as well. Like I said, I've already listened to other stuff that you've been on, watched other stuff you've been on, I've read a lot of what you said, but we've not met before, and just to be able to have an hour with you and just talk about some of these things has been great. So what I'm going to ask is obviously, for anyone who's heard what you've had to say today and would dearly love to work with you, how do they find you?
Sure. So the best way to get hold of me is on my LinkedIn. So my name is Seb Losardo. If you can find that, then you'll find me. If not, you can have a look at my website, which is www.growmedia.club, and you'll be able to see how I work, my rates and everything. They're all on there, so it's all up front. So yeah, please do reach out.
Perfect. And if anyone is not convinced already, then you're just not listening, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate it.
No. Thank you so much. So thank you for joining us today on the Attention Shift Pod. I've been Ed Abbis. If you would like to get in touch, would like to be a guest on the pod, you can email us at hello@attentionshift.media. Please like, subscribe, and thank you, Seb. If you enjoyed this conversation, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this. And make sure you smash that bell icon too, so you're always the first to know exactly when a new episode drops.